This is the story of Ariel and the mysterious world above. You can read along with me in your book. You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear the chimes ring like this. Let's begin now. Deep down in the ocean, where the mer people live, Sebastian the Crab was trying to get the attention of the Sea King's daughters. The royal court composer faced all but one of the 7 princesses.
Please, sing this the way I taught you. Where is that Ariel? This composition needs a voice as clear as a bell.
Giggling, the mermaids shook their heads. They knew the youngest and most beautiful of them was always late. If Ariel was anything like her sisters, she would have been gliding among the sea ferns and trees, or playing inside her father's castle. At the very least, she would have been petting the young fish as they swam through the open windows. But no, not Ariel. She had become best friends with one of the fish that had wandered into the palace, and together she and Flounder spent their days getting into mischief. Yet Ariel was growing older and becoming more curious about the world above. Although she often missed rehearsal, she found other times to pester Sebastian.
Must we go to this again, Ariel? Oh, all right. Your 15th birthday is the one and only day you may visit the surface. What you see up there will be spectacular, but every mermaid who rises above the sea must return, and all merpeople, maids and men, are forbidden contact with humans.
A few months before Ariel's 15th birthday, Ariel sought out her sisters as they sat at their dressing tables combing their hair.
Please tell me about the day you turned 15 and the wonderful things you saw on the surface.
Aquata, the eldest, laughed.
You're such a silly minnow, Ariel, wanting to know so much. But I suppose if you absolutely insist.
She smiled gently at her little sister.
After I reached the surface, I followed the moon's path toward shore. Then I lay on a sandbar gazing from a distance at the oddest things. If you can imagine, I saw 4-legged seahorses guiding chariots, which were balanced on sand dollars that went round and round. But the most delightful thing of all was to lie on that sandbar in the moonlight, listening to the sounds of humans. I heard chariots rumbling into town, people shouting and laughing, and church bells ringing. The bells rang clear and loud, unlike anything beneath the sea.
As soon as Aquata finished her story, Andrina began hers.
Listen, Ariel, when I went up, the whole sky looked like gold. It shone brighter than the most brilliant pearl. The clouds glowed violet and red, and they sailed over my head like froth on a wave.
Every sister was silent, trying to imagine the view Andrina described. Suddenly, they heard Sebastian outside.
Arista! Athena! Where are you? Adela? Andrina? It is time for rehearsal. I can't ever find those girls when I need them.
With a desperate look in her eye, Ariel motioned for her sisters to hide while Sebastian searched for them. Ariel watched the crab from her hiding place. As soon as he had gone, the princesses came out again. Ariel smiled gratefully.
Thank you. Arista, tell me what you saw. Did you see any humans?
Oh, Ariel, I knew you'd ask. Yes, I did see humans. Human children. They were splashing about and swimming in a tiny bay. They looked so dear and innocent. I wanted to play with them. But I remembered Father's rule, never, ever mix with humans.
Ariel didn't want to think about her father's rules. Instead, she wanted to learn everything she could about the world above. Ariel listened carefully as Athena described how peaceful her day was in the middle of the ocean, and as Adela and Alana spoke about surfacing during the winter and encountering icebergs, storms, and ships. When Ariel begged to hear more, Aquata shook her head.
The surface is a beautiful place, full of strange and wondrous things, but it can be cold and lonely and dangerous. Father's realm is by far the safest and loveliest place to be.
That night, Ariel stared out of her window, remembering the stories her sisters had told her, especially those about humans. Peering through the water, she tried to imagine church bells and carriages, castles and streets. As she gazed up through the sea into the sky, she made a wish on a falling star.
If only I could turn 15 tomorrow.
The months passed slowly. During that time, Ariel discovered some sunken ships far from the king's palace. With Flounder's help, Ariel collected human objects from the wrecks. She liked to gaze at them and dream about what they might be used for in the world above. On the day before her birthday, as Ariel excitedly went over her plans for her visit to the surface, Flounder gazed at her human treasures.
Gosh, Ariel, why don't you take some of those things with you? Maybe you'll meet someone who knows what they are.
That's a wonderful idea, Flounder.
Ariel picked up a small glass object, unaware that it was a perfume bottle. As Ariel and Flounder swam toward the palace, Sebastian saw them. He glared when he spotted the perfume bottle in her hand.
Give that to me this instant. Ariel, how many times have I told you to leave those human things alone?
Sebastian knew that Ariel had secretly broken the rules and peeked at the surface once before, almost being spotted by humans.
I had better go to that surface with you and make sure you don't get into any trouble. Why can't you behave? I'm the royal court composer, not a nursemaid.
As Sebastian led the way to the palace, two eels slithered in the shadows. They were acting as the eyes and ears of the evil sea witch Ursula. From her distant lair, the witch observed the little mermaid and her companion.
So, the Sea King's precious daughter is going to the surface tomorrow, is she? What a marvelous opportunity. I'd do anything to get back at that fool Triton, who banished me from his kingdom.
Ursula came up with a plan to use her eels, Flotsam and Jetsam, to make King Triton angry with his youngest daughter. Before dawn the next morning, Ariel streaked toward the surface of the water with a sleepy Sebastian and Flounder struggling behind her. As the sun rose over the sea, Ariel burst through the waves, thrilled to be in the world above. She raced toward shore, but paused when she heard a strange voice.
You're Princess Ariel, aren't you?
Perched on a piece of driftwood was a seagull.
A flying fish told me about you. Said you're kind of curious about humans. You are so lucky you came to the right goal, 'cause I know everything there is to know about humans.
Ariel stared at the seagull.
You mean you've been close enough to humans to hear them speak?
You bet your scales, sweetie. And I can answer all your questions.
At that moment, Flounder and Sebastian finally caught up with the little mermaid. The seagull introduced himself as Scuttle, then winked at Ariel and pointed toward shore.
Since it's your birthday, sweetie, how about a free guided tour?
Oh, Scuttle, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Ariel followed the seagull. As they approached land, the mermaid pointed to a kite flying above a grove of trees.
Scuttle, look. What's that?
He gasped.
Why, I'll be flabbergasted. I haven't seen one of them in ages. It's a wobble-eyed weather snoop.
Ariel sighed as the kite dipped below the trees and disappeared.
Oh, a wobble-eyed weather snoop. It was so So beautiful.
She swam closer to shore, hoping to glimpse some humans. Even though it was her birthday, Ariel didn't want to be selfish, so she waited in a tide pool near shore for Sebastian and Flounder to join her. In the shallow water, she saw starfish and sea otters and something else made by humans. She held up a metal fishing pail.
Scuttle, over here. Do you know what this is?
As she waited for the seagull to answer, Sebastian and Flounder swam up. The crab gestured frantically, pointing behind her.
Ariel, look out!
Frightened, Ariel ducked her head. A huge wave crashed over her, knocking the pail out of her hands. Moments later, she surfaced in the ocean, removing bits of seaweed from her hair. Flounder hurried to Ariel's side.
Wow. That wave was a monster. It came out of nowhere.
Sebastian frowned, shaking his head.
That's a bad omen. Let's get out of this place before a human comes over here and snatches us up.
It wasn't humans Sebastian should have been worrying about, but Flotsam and Jetsam, who had used Ursula's magic to stir up the water and create the wave. There, behind the rocks, the eels were lurking. The sea witch wanted her eels to hide a sparkling human object in the Little Mermaid's hair to get her into trouble. Far below, Ursula shook with frustration.
My plan was perfect, but that bratty girl ducked just in time. Keep watching her, my pets. You'll get another chance. I'll make sure of that.
Back at the tide pool, Scuttle struggled with a pail which the wave had dropped on his head.
Hey! Where did the sun go?
Scuttle tripped, somersaulted, and the pail flew off. The seagull hopped after it excitedly.
Ariel, why didn't you tell me I discovered a silver-plated snickerhoodle? Ooh, it provides wonderful shade for humans as they gallivant about in the throes of day. This one even has a chin holder. It's a real find.
The day wore on and Ariel swam along the shore looking for the places that her sisters had seen on their 15th birthdays. Although she couldn't find any of them, the Little Mermaid saw hills and shores and sailing ships more beautiful than she had imagined. As the sun set, she swam into a shallow cove. Her three companions followed her. Suddenly, Ariel frowned.
Quiet, everyone. I hear something.
At first, it was very quiet. Then they heard a tremendous roar. The earth began to rumble and the sea to stir. Clouds gathered overhead and enormous waves began building out in the ocean, heading toward the cove. Before Ariel had a chance to dive underwater, a huge wave crashed on top of her. As she thrashed about in the blinding water, Flotsam and Jetsam glided up to her and hid something in her hair. Within seconds, the eels were gone. As the storm miraculously disappeared, Ariel suddenly realized that it was getting late, and soon her birthday would be over. With one last look at the surface, Ariel slipped underwater. This time she lagged behind Flounder and Sebastian as they hurried home. That evening, Ariel told her sisters all about her trip to the surface.
The world above was more wonderful than I could have imagined. And there were so many amazing human things, like something called a wobble-eyed weather snoop.
Wobble-eyed weather snoop? Young lady, just how close did you get to the shore? And to humans?
King Triton appeared, glaring at Ariel. She trembled before him.
I didn't see any humans, Daddy. Honest.
Then what's this?
The Sea King reached over and drew a sparkling diamond ring from Ariel's hair. It was the object that Ursula and the eels had placed there to make trouble for the Little Mermaid with her father. Sebastian hurried to Ariel's defense.
Oh, Your Majesty, I was with her the whole time. Believe me, she was good as a goldfish. That funny little thing must have washed into her hair with a wave.
King Triton's frown disappeared. He hugged his daughter.
It's just that I love you so much, Ariel. I wouldn't want to see you hurt by a human. Don't forget, humans are barbarians. Now go along, get some sleep.
Ariel went to her bedroom, but she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about all the beautiful things and places she had seen in the human world above. As she leaned out the window, gazing up through the sea, she smiled.
I know Daddy cares about me, but he's wrong about humans. Someday he'll understand. Someday.